Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another live episode of Ango Uncensored. This is episode 2, and we are live on YouTube. And, you know, I said this was going to be a weekly thing. I don't know. I had a variety of topics that I want to discuss, and I figured, why not jump on live and talk about it? So if you guys are joining me live, I thank you very much for joining me live. If you're listening to this on demand on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever it may be, I thank you as well. Variety of topics that we're going to be discussing today. Brooks Jensen becomes a free agent. I definitely want to talk about that. I'm going to be giving you guys my prediction of WrestleMania 41. I feel like it is really early, and I like doing this kind of stuff where you predict something far out and then see how wrong you actually were. So I'm definitely going to enjoy coming back to this specific episode because with WrestleMania 41, there's a lot of moving parts. Obviously, WWE going to Las Vegas. There's a lot of talk on social media about certain matches that could or can't happen and why they may or may not happen. Pat McAfee's show was shut down yesterday. It sounded like the Wyatt 6 were behind that, but it appears that necessarily wasn't the case. But I'm going to talk about that because that was pretty damn freaking cool. WWE NXT Europe in its future. I don't think it's going to happen, and I want to talk about that. And then, of course, that will lead to the WWE Global Expansion. So, definitely super excited. I'm geeked, man. I'm geeked. Definitely geeked. And one thing that I also want to point out too, guys, if you want to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. The first and foremost, the easiest way, it costs you nothing other than 0.5 seconds of your life. Clicking that subscribe button and clicking that like button. Okay? Not a huge ask. Definitely appreciate it. It's completely free. And then, of course, I do want to point out if you do want to support me and my channel, the best way to do that is by dropping a super chat. Super chat, super thanks, anything like that is definitely appreciated, or becoming a member. If you become a member on the channel, there are some perks involved with that. But I definitely just want to let you guys know that I actually really enjoyed doing the first episode. And the first episode was, man, that was super fun. And I felt like, you know, we got to keep doing this. This is something that I want to keep on doing, something that I hope to keep on doing. And obviously by doing it, I tend to enjoy it a little bit more. Like I actually looked forward. I didn't have the plan necessarily to go live today and do an episode 2, but I felt like with these topics, they were really important to me. And I felt like those kind of conversations tend to be the funnest. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's turn our attention to this. Brooks Jensen dropped a video. I'm going to show it to you guys, and I will tell you my thoughts right after.
Okay, put this on. Hey guys, I'm back. So we're one day away. Tomorrow marks Ben Buchanan being a free agent. Oh, what a journey it's been. I want to thank each and every single one of you for being part of my journey. All the way from when I started at 16 years old to now, it's just been an experience. Oh, God, but I have some great news. This Saturday, I had my first independent booking. That's right. I got my first match this Saturday. You know I can't celebrate without a drink, right? Hold on. Salute. Ugh. But guys, once again, thank you for being part of this, and I cannot wait to share more of my journey with all of you.
All right, so there you have it. Brooks Jensen dropping the news that he is becoming a free agent. And holy shit, dude, that is some remarkable stuff. And obviously, I've talked a little bit about this in my NXT reviews, but I want to actually do a little bit more of a deep dive about this because I see one of the big criticisms that people have about Brooks Jensen in this particular story is that a lot of it is not happening on TV. And that's okay with me. The thing here that people need to realize is that Brooks Jensen had left his tag team, his little group with Fallon Henley and Josh Briggs. And this is a guy who just feels like he's been treated poorly by Shawn Michaels in WWE. Now, the reality is this, if you guys haven't caught on, Brooks Jensen is not actually technically a free agent. That's why in the beginning I did use the air quotes, because he's in WWE. WWE has him signed. Their relationship with Brooks Jensen is really good. I hate to kill kayfabe here. I really do. But the truth is, Brooks Jensen and WWE are doing a storyline, and they're trying to make this feel as real as possible. And when you try to make a storyline feel as real as possible, the more that you do it outside of television, the more it feels as real as possible. Now, I know this sounds absolutely absurd, right? But that's really the truth here. It's if you want to make things seem like it's reality, the more it's on TV, the less real it feels. So when Brooks Jensen is trying to rush the ring, when Brooks Jensen is trying to interrupt the commentators and stuff like that, yeah, the point of it is to make this feel like a very real situation. And the camera should not be panning on him, and the camera should not be focused on him at all. But what really helps is the fact that WWE, through Brooks Jensen, has him on television in very minute, minuscule ways. It's very, very, very like, this isn't supposed to happen. That's what we need. That's what we need more of in pro wrestling. And what I love so much about Brooks Jensen becoming a free agent is what Fightful Select was talking about in their latest report, which is that he's still in WWE. WWE is allowing him to take indie bookings. WWE is allowing him to do this to sell the storyline. So people are going on social media, and Brooks Jensen is literally putting out tweets about potentially joining AAA and New Japan and AEW and all these other companies. But guess what? That is literally exactly what would happen if somebody was becoming a free agent. So I look at this as an opportunity to not only create a new star, but to get people talking. And then you have to factor in WWE's working relationships, which this is absolutely incredible to me because WWE is working with TNA. WWE is in talks with AAA. If you guys missed my video today, I did upload a video talking about WWE potentially working with AAA. WWE is working with All Japan. WWE is working with Marigold. WWE is working with Pro Wrestling Noah. What is to stop Brooks Jensen from leaving WWE and showing up at one of their partners? And then because WWE has those working relationships, they're able to bring that into their television screen when they are ready to do so. Now, I am a firm believer that Ava Raine is actually a good general manager for NXT. I hate the criticism that she gets because I think Ava Raine tends to make NXT feel a little bit more different from the main roster, especially in comparison to Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis. But I very much look forward to Ava having to address Brooks Jensen at some point. Maybe having to swoop in and bring Shawn Michaels into the mix on TV. Because Shawn Michaels largely isn't part of NXT television. He's used very sparingly as an on-screen character. But Ava is. So when I see Brooks Jensen making a video like this, and I don't know if this dude is having a fucking midlife crisis, I don't know what it is. He's too young to be having a midlife crisis, but a lot of his social media posts tends to look like he's an alcoholic. And he's pissed off, and he's mad, and now he's a free agent, and he's that little sick, twisted laugh, you know, at the end, it's just weird, but it's showing layers to a guy who would just be simply another person in NXT. Which, by the way, one of my biggest criticisms in WWE, if you followed along with my content for a long time, you know one of my biggest criticisms in WWE is that tag teams would split up and people would have no direction. By the way, I could probably find the clip if I had enough time where I talked about him breaking up with Josh Briggs and questioning that and saying, why would you split them up? They're not ready to be split up. Because, historically speaking, WWE has had an issue planning for people long term. So then I see Brooks Jensen getting this storyline, and it's very, very unique because in WWE, I looked at that as a big mistake. But now I'm watching this and thinking, good golly fucking gosh. I swear, I'm not bullshitting you guys. I swear, I genuinely am like, whoa, this is like good stuff. Now let's be real. AEW is kind of doing something similar with Jack Perry, and he went to New Japan and he ripped up his AEW contract. When you try to make it feel as real as possible, sometimes it truly just feels real, and that's the beauty of it. Even though we know it's a storyline, even though we know that he's in WWE, I tend to think stories like this are much more enjoyable to watch. You have to pay attention to outside of television. And then when it's time to bring it to television, you have to make everything full circle. Now, it's weird that Brooks Jensen, out of all people, is a heel, because I thought this guy, and I forget, I think he was using Journey's theme song. It was that dark match. I've talked about this before, but he had that dark match and he had a licensed theme song. And they were doing like this old school Brooks Jensen gimmick. And I don't know, to me, he looked like he could have been part of the revival, right? The mullet and everything. And I started laughing when that happened because I was like, good God, like this guy's going to be a fucking huge baby face. But this heel turn is coming across as like a really, really cool thing. And the funny part about it, man, is like, hey, is he actually a heel? We still got to get more details on exactly what has happened and why this is happening. But it is happening, and we do have a little bit of backstory because he feels disrespected by the company. Shawn Michaels bringing in Frankie Kazarian and Joe Hendry pissed off Brooks Jensen. I don't know what it is about this, guys, but long-term storytelling is the best part of wrestling for me. And I needed to talk to you guys about that. I needed to show you guys that clip. Because this is a guy that is just, he would have been just another guy in NXT. But imagine if he shows up. Imagine if Brooks Jensen shows up at AAA. Or imagine if Brooks Jensen shows up at TNA. By the way, AAA has a new TV deal in America. I think it's Unimas. I have the channel, so I'll be able to watch AAA on there. Imagine if I'm watching it one weekend and Brooks Jensen shows up. Imagine if he tries to run into the ring and security gets him, just like he did this past week at NXT. People will be talking about it on social media. I think sometimes people forget. And actually, you know, I'm going to just say this. Probably not a hot take, but it's not a good opinion for a lot of people that are siding with AEW. But I will say this because I do feel like this is the truth. You can use social media to book for the sickos and cater your TV product to them. Or you can book your television product for the casual audience, and then the sickos who are on social media have to question everything when social media is being used properly. If you don't get what I'm telling you, it's very simple. Using social media as a way to further storylines, it's a hell of a way to utilize it. Using social media to make your TV product all about them, I don't agree with that. And so, I'm super intrigued by this. I don't want WWE to fuck it up. But so far, I am absolutely loving it. And I had to make that point clear. I had to talk about that because it seems like WWE is trying to do things a little bit differently. Not only with the Wyatt 6, but also now with NXT, working with other companies, more long-term storytelling. I think the change is very obvious. Before we talk about WrestleMania 41 and the prediction for the card, because I will get to that, I did want to talk just really briefly about Wyatt 6. The Wyatt 6, the lights went out on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. It was really funny how it happened, because if you heard the sound effect and the lights going out, it did sound like the Wyatt 6 sound effect. In fact, I would probably bet my life savings on the fact that they just used the Wyatt 6 light shut off sound effect, right? Pat McAfee came out on social media today, and this guy says it wasn't them. But this is why I loved it. It was trending for one, and for those who don't get what I'm talking about, Pat McAfee show shutting down, the lights going out, everybody immediately thought it was the Wyatt 6. Today, Pat McAfee came out with this a video and a statement, and he says, "Good morning, beautiful people. At the end of yesterday's show, a starting and eerie power outage took place in our Thunderdome. It shut down our program abruptly and left a lot of folks worried and confused. I, just like the rest of the boys, saw the assumptions of the Y6 being the culprits and that we might be dead. We were going to address those rumors earlier, but didn't think anybody would ever understand without actually seeing what happened. So we gathered all of our generator-powered security camera footage to explain, and all we could say is thank God for Jack Carr USA." Jack Carr is I believe he is a former or current Navy SEAL sniper, best-selling author. He's a guest as part of the Pat McAfee show. And yeah, just my point that I'm making to this, I was talking about Brooks Jensen, right? And I was talking about how using social media to kind of get people talking about your show and getting interested in your show and storylines and angles. Pat McAfee was absolutely correct. This tweet, by the way, has over 1 million views. It's very obvious that people who watch the Pat McAfee show may or may not watch wrestling. And just the fact that they use the Wyatt 6 light shut off sound effect, and then he goes and addresses it and says, hey, like, we also thought this was the Wyatt 6. This generated a ton of conversation about WWE. This generated a ton of conversation about Wyatt 6. This is another great example of using your platform to further discussions and to further everything involved in WWE television. When WWE did Raw Talk with Megan Morant and Sam Roberts, their show was hacked by the Wyatt 6 weeks ago. So when you see that there's follow-up to these kinds of things, when you see these types of things happen, there is a level of intrigue that keeps you invested. It would have been really cool if the Wyatt 6 took out the Pat McAfee show. But WWE and ESPN don't have a deal. ESPN and WWE don't work together. This is the Pat McAfee show on ESPN. I don't know if WWE and ESPN would cross-promote in that regard. But still, Pat McAfee found a way to get people talking about the Wyatt 6. It's the simple things. It's the little things. These are the things that I'm talking about. Every day in my videos, if you follow my channel, these are the things that are important. They are important because it gets people talking. CM Punk has been back in WWE since last year, November. Nobody's talking about a potential backstage fight with CM Punk. People are talking about the Wyatt 6. They're talking about Brooks Jensen. They're talking about Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. They are talking about the TV product. They're not talking about some backstage shenanigans. They're not talking about some drama from backstage. Largely due to the fact that there isn't drama being reported, and if there was any drama backstage, it is being handled, obviously, because nobody's talking about it. It's not being discussed because it's not being reported. And it's not taking precedence over what is happening on the TV show. And then people think I get mad at AEW and they think I'm against AEW. But when I say the little things matter and your TV product is that good, people are talking about the TV product. Which, by the way, I know I didn't do an AEW Dynamite review, and I know I didn't put this in the description of today's show, but let me just kind of come out here and say, Dynamite this week was fantastic. Fantastic. A fantastic episode. And the one thing that really stuck out to me was Will Ospreay and Swerve, and I tweeted it out. If you follow me on Twitter, I tweeted it out. But holy shit. We need to talk about Will Ospreay and Swerve. A great promo. An absolute great promo between the two. And Will Ospreay had a wonderful line about, hey, you had a hit row, I had a hit list. People don't give Will Ospreay enough credit for being such a great promo. And it's crazy to me. It is absolutely crazy to me that people don't think Will Ospreay could cut a great promo. And for some reason, not enough people are talking about it. I don't get that. I don't get that. It seems like the only time people want to talk about AEW, the only time AEW is truly like in the headlines is when there's drama, but not when there's anything good. And look, there could be a million reasons as to why that is happening. Obviously, I'm not stupid. But we do have to acknowledge the fact that it was a really good promo. I wasn't able to do a live review for Dynamite because I wasn't watching it live. But it's a great program. But then I get into this controversial take. For some reason, it's controversial. And I'm thinking, hey, why is Will Ospreay fighting Swerve at Forbidden Door? It should be happening at Wembley Stadium. That's the big money match to make. I don't get it. I don't know. I don't understand in the slightest why that is the case. But I see that WWE's long-term stories and their plans, they have these little nuances, these little Easter eggs, these little elements. There's these little elements that even happen outside of WWE television that keep people talking about WWE television. And I don't think AEW has much of that. And I think that's actually kind of an issue. And obviously, I don't talk about ratings enough because I don't care about ratings. I don't think ratings are calculated accurately, but I should kind of mention this because it is, if accurate, if true, drawing 502,000 viewers on this week's episode. I don't think that's obviously a good number, but I also don't believe the way ratings are calculated, so I don't truly believe 502,000 is the number, but let's just say it was. Clearly, there is a lack of interest. But why is there interest in WWE? The Wyatt Six haven't wrestled yet. They showed up, had an entrance, had a reveal. They had a massacre. They went after Chad Gable. You got Pat McAfee using their sound effect. That was yesterday. That was on a Thursday. The Wyatt Six happened on Monday. People are still talking about the TV program days later. I don't know why this is a controversial take, but maybe other wrestling companies could try to figure it out and learn a little bit from WWE. They don't need to be like WWE. They don't need to be like WWE Light. They don't need to be that. But maybe utilizing their counterparts. Just maybe a suggestion. I did want to talk a little bit about NXT Europe because I am disappointed in this. If you guys missed today's video, I was talking about WWE working with AAA. I don't know, 6 years ago, Triple H revealed his plans for global localization. WWE wants to have performance centers and NXT shows globally, right? That was the plan 7 years ago. I don't believe that for a fucking second. I actually don't. Now that WWE's under endeavor, the more and more that I talk about this, I don't think WWE has any plans for NXT Europe. I know Shawn Michaels talked about it on a media call. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think WWE has any plans to launch another NXT show. I will be absolutely mind blown if they do. It is far too easy and far much less expensive to just have your wrestlers show up to partnered companies. WWE can have their talent go to Europe. WWE can have stadium shows in Europe. WWE doesn't need an NXT Europe. They got rid of NXT UK. NXT UK, if I had to assume, was probably making no money. If I had to guess, I could be wrong, but I'm going to assume that NXT UK was not making money. Aside from the fact that it was content, I don't really know if there was any value in NXT UK. Triple H is having these media scrums after pay-per-views, and I don't see people asking about it. I don't know why. If I was sitting at a media scrum, I would ask Triple H, hey, years ago, you brought up your plan for NXT and global localization. Several years later, WWE has merged with the UFC and become TKO. Shawn Michaels on record has said that it's being worked on and there were some delays and whatever, but I would like to know if you could tell us where we're at with NXT UK and where WWE stands with the global localization plan. I don't think this is a difficult question to ask. Maybe it could be asked a little bit differently. I don't do media scrums. I don't know. But I do wonder what the hell happened to NXT Europe. Is it coming? Is it not coming? We don't have an update on it. WWE loves touting this international global expansion. The largest gate in Scotland, right? They just had that. The largest arena gate. They just did it in Scotland. Those tickets were not cheap. They're making money. I understand they're killing it internationally. If there was ever a time for WWE to launch NXT Europe, I feel like it would be now. Why is this a big thing? Why is this a big deal? Things change. Of course they change. Imagine if somebody promised you $1,000. I don't know. Let's say $1 million. This is going to be probably a shitty analogy, but if somebody promised you $1 million and they're like, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million. You go an entire day, they don't bring it up. The next day, they don't bring it up. The day after, they don't bring it up. And the day after that, they don't bring it up. And hey, the day after that, they don't bring it up. And then the day after that, they don't bring it up. But they promise you a fucking $1 million. If they don't give you what they promised you, and they're not bringing it up, don't you feel like in a way it's like, why the hell would you say that to begin with? That's kind of how I feel with NXT Europe. And again, it's probably a shitty analogy and that's completely fine. But my point that I'm making is like, I actually enjoyed watching NXT UK. And then a lot of people lost their job. And then the rumor was that a lot of those people would get their job back when WWE launches NXT Europe. It's just something to consider. It's just something I want to know about. I was bought into the idea of NXT Europe. I was bought into the idea of WWE doing global localization. But it seems to me that WWE has become a lot smarter in the sense that their global expansion plans have probably been revised or changed in a way that can actually generate more money. And if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I think maybe Triple H did that when he was in NXT. I think he had those plans because Vince McMahon was still running the main roster, and Vince McMahon, he didn't give a damn rat's ass about NXT. I don't think Vince McMahon gave a shit about anything, to be honest with you. But if I'm spitballing here, it was like, hey, you could go do this. I think Triple H had those plans. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass right now. Maybe in 7 months from now, we'll see something about NXT Europe. But it is interesting to me that they haven't spoke on it. They haven't done anything about it. They haven't made any plans for it. They haven't revealed anything. They haven't done anything to make me feel excited about NXT Europe. And initially, when those plans came out, I got excited. I was like, okay, things are going to change. But that comes from a viewership perspective because I personally enjoyed watching NXT UK. Some people didn't, and that's fine. But I definitely liked it. I thought, especially because of the way regular NXT was shifting and changing and stuff, I was like, okay, NXT UK is like still untouched. It's like the little child that doesn't get any love from daddy, but fucking still awesome, you know? I don't know. I would think maybe TKO is being a cheap ass too, because it's not cheap. I think WWE could become a little bit more cheap right now. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm not saying that as a positive. I'm just saying it as in general. UFC has kind of been a cheap ass, you know? So we'll see how that works. But I did have to bring that up because I am slightly confused by it. I'm slightly annoyed by it. I'm slightly disappointed by it. I guess I just don't genuinely understand why that is the case. With that being said, I do want to talk a little bit about WrestleMania 41. As I've mentioned earlier in the stream, there was a tweet that I put out about WrestleMania 41. WrestleMania 41 taking place in Las Vegas. I look forward to doing my WrestleMania 41 prediction live stream and coming back to this very live stream at this very second and see if I was right or wrong. I did get some interesting responses, by the way, on the tweet, and a lot of people seem to like it. A lot of people seem to enjoy the idea, and there was a few people that didn't like the idea, and that's completely fine. I'm definitely not mad about it at all in the slightest. But let me put up this tweet really quick so you guys can see. So this was the tweet right here. WrestleMania 41. I put Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, Rock versus Roman, Gunther versus Ilya, Punk versus Rollins, Bianca versus Jade. And I said, who says no to these major singles matches in the grandest stage of them all? So I want to talk about that for a second. I want to talk about WrestleMania 41. WrestleMania 41, Las Vegas. It's the largest WrestleMania of all time. And I feel like if you know how WWE operates, you know that this card will likely be all bangers. So let's talk about that. Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. Randy Orton has been eyeing Cody Rhodes' championship. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but there's a specific image that's floated around throughout the years from Randy Orton with a fan in the crowd, and she got some, you know, and Randy's looking at him. Well, he did the same shit, but with Cody Rhodes and his championship. And now that photo is going viral. Randy Orton has had some small little Easter eggs, some small little nuggets of teases. It is very clear that Randy Orton will turn heel and go up against Cody Rhodes. It's a fucking no-brainer. Somebody responded to my tweet and said, hey, something long-term storytelling. They didn't like this idea. Whatever. I don't care. I'm going to explain why this is a fucking great idea. Because Cody Rhodes, his entire journey in WWE has been adversity. He climbed to the mountaintop. You think it was just going to be easy? No. We need a dark, vicious, psychotic, crazy heel to go after Cody Rhodes. And imagine if it was Randy Orton, a man that has a backstory with Cody Rhodes. It's a fucking no-brainer. No-brainer. Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton is absolutely a no-brainer. Absolutely no-brainer. When Randy Orton punts the head of Cody Rhodes, something that he hasn't really done because it's been banned from television, Cody Rhodes will get sympathy. But just like Cody Rhodes pulled a Homelander against AJ Styles at Clash, I think he'll do the same thing to Randy in order to defeat Randy. This is a magnitude. This is a match with so much magnitude. So much magnitude of this matchup happening at WrestleMania. WWE would be absolutely ridiculous to do this anytime sooner. Cody versus Randy does not need to happen at the Rumble. It does not need to happen at Money in the Bank. It does not need to happen at SummerSlam. It does not need to happen at Bash at Berlin. It does not need to happen at Elimination Chamber. In fact, what should be happening is when Cody Rhodes is dealing with the Bloodline and Solo Sikoa, Randy Orton should be there to help him, just as Kevin Owens should be. Randy Orton should always be in the background of Cody Rhodes, eyeing that championship, utilizing this friendship with Cody as a way to get back at Cody. And then when he turns heel and when he fucking snaps and punts the head of Cody Rhodes, and that's how they end an episode of SmackDown. When he goes to WrestleMania to verse Cody Rhodes, that match has money all over it. And I know this is going to be pretty fucking absolutely crazy of a statement that I'm about to make. But Randy Orton could still go. He is still extremely popular. He is still one of the best heels in professional wrestling. So if I am teasing this at all, if I'm teasing this at all, I do it long term and I make it happen at WrestleMania 41. 1000%, without a doubt, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It happens at WrestleMania 41. The next match that I have on that tweet is Rock versus Roman. So WrestleMania 41, Rock versus Roman, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is not something you wait until 2 years, 3 years. The seeds have been planted. The Bloodline are doing their thing. It's June 21st, 2024. We have a lot of time until WrestleMania 41. At some point, we will have to get to Cody versus Rock. Cody versus Rock can happen at Royal Rumble. It can happen at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. It can happen at Elimination Chamber. It can happen at another stadium show that's not at WrestleMania. You don't need Cody versus Rock at WrestleMania. I look forward to seeing if these predictions come true next year. But based on what I see on television right now, this seems to be the most logical way to go about things. Cody versus Randy. Rock versus Roman. It's the biggest match of all time. And then you have the question as to whether or not a championship is involved in this match. I said this last year. I said this 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago. Rock and Roman, it's not about a championship. It is about being head of the table. It is not. It is not about winning the WWE Championship. The Bloodline's whole storyline, even when Roman Reigns was on TV, it was never about some of this other bullshit other than protecting their legacy. It's as simple as that. The fact it even has to be discussed, it's crazy. The next match I had on that list was Gunther versus Ilya Dragunov. I have a feeling these gentlemen are going to have a series of matches. I have a very strong feeling that Ilya Dragunov and Gunther is going to be one of those series of matches that are absolutely crazy. I do think Gunther will be World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania next year. And I do believe Ilya Dragunov will be the one to dethrone Gunther, because Gunther has been dethroned by Ilya Dragunov before. So I don't think Gunther will be holding the World Heavyweight Championship as long as he did with the Intercontinental Championship. That is completely fine. That doesn't need to happen. But for those who think Ilya Dragunov needs to fight Gunther at Bash at Berlin, I would actually much rather see Ludwig Kaiser break away from Gunther and have that match instead. Because one, Gunther needs to win. But I would much rather see WrestleMania, Ilya Dragunov, and Gunther. I predict that's the World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania. Not Seth Rollins and Gunther, not Drew McIntyre and Gunther, not CM Punk and Gunther, not Jey Uso and Gunther. I think WrestleMania 41, we get Gunther and Ilya Dragunov. They planted the seed before. They've teased something before. And again, Ilya Dragunov is like one of 3 or 4 people in history in WWE to have beaten Gunther. I think it's Ilya, Braun Breaker. Sami Zayn obviously did it, and I think maybe that's it. I might be missing one more. But Gunther and Ilya Dragunov, WrestleMania 41. You save that match. I understand why people think it should happen in Germany. I don't agree with that. I wouldn't be mad about it, especially if you're doing a series of matches. But Gunther versus Ilya, you let them wrestle for 30 minutes at WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas, and wrestling fans will go absolutely crazy. Now, I talked about CM Punk and Rollins not having a match against Gunther. I do believe WWE gets back to Punk and Rollins. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk happening at SummerSlam makes sense. And then I think they move on to CM Punk and Seth Rollins at some points later on this year. The beauty of that is that Rollins and CM Punk is also another story that you can call back to a lot on. So I like the idea that WWE can revisit that storyline, and I think it makes more sense to save it for WrestleMania 41. At all. Punk versus Rollins is going to have a lot of heat. I always go back to Rollins and Riddle. Remember how they tried to blur the lines with Rollins and Riddle? Extreme Rules? I see very much of that same stuff being applied to Rollins and Punk. Again, another massive matchup that could be huge for WrestleMania 41. We talked a lot about blurring the lines with Brooks Jensen. When Punk came back, there was a lot of lines being blurred. A lot of lines being blurred when Punk came back. You didn't know what the hell was about to happen. So I do want to bring that up. I do think that's important to acknowledge. This is a story that has a lot of meat on the bone. This is a story where they're going to blur the lines. You're not going to know what the hell is real, what the hell is fake. You're not going to know any of that. And then you have Bianca versus Jade. To me, it feels like a no-brainer. Bianca versus Jade. They just lost the tag titles. I didn't think they would lose the tag titles. I don't know how exactly they're going to move about that storyline. I think you have to keep Jade Cargill as a babyface. I think Bianca turning heel would be incredible. And I think that's a massive marquee match for WrestleMania. So then when I see that type of match and I put it in my tweet, I don't think a lot of people argue with that one because I just think it makes too much sense. But this would be another tag team breakup in the women's division, which I think kind of fucking sucks, to be honest. Tag teams breaking up to have a singles match at WrestleMania just seems like such a common thing. We saw it with the Usos, and obviously now with Bianca and Jade, that would be another thing. But definitely something to discuss, because if Bianca and Jade have a singles match, which Bianca's improving all the time, but if they have that singles match next year, that's a fucking big W. A marquee singles match for Jade, a marquee singles match for Bianca, a matchup where I think people would genuinely have a lot of interest in it. I think they're all very, very talented. I think there's a lot of groundbreaking stories that could come from that. I think the headlines will be huge. I think the red carpet events, the press, I see them drawing up a lot of interest. Those matches for sure. I did want to point out Cedric, one of our mods in the chat, and then also YouTube member. At this point, he's a homie, obviously. He mentioned Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. For some reason, I don't think that happens at WrestleMania, because I think Finn Balor and Damian Priest will be a big-time singles match in the very near future. I could be wrong, but I do think so. I think Damian Priest and Finn Balor is money all over that. And they've been planting that seed for a fucking long time too, man. You got to remember, WrestleMania is not going to be the end-all be-all for all these stories. And when you have a stacked roster like this, I mean, I just listed like 5-6 matches. There's 2 nights of WrestleMania, 5 or 6 matches each night. There's going to be tag team championship matches. You got to factor in something for Logan Paul. Maybe Logan Paul versus John Cena. I don't know. I think Logan Paul versus John Cena is very logical. But I look at that storyline for Bianca and Jade and Punk and Rollins and Gunther and Ilya Dragunov, and I see all those people and I'm like, these have to happen. So I don't know what will happen, obviously. That's why we're predicting it. But I do want to come back to the stream. I think it'll be very fun. I feel like it'll be very fun to see what happens. And I think it'll be very fun to see what happens next year. Like, I would love to come back to the stream and be like, damn, I hit all of them right. Yeah. What we're going to do is this. We're going to take a quick commercial break. I'm going to grab a drink of water, and then we'll take a look at the chat, some of your guys' questions. If there's any super chats or membership shout outs or anything like that, we'll get to those as well. Yeah, we'll be right back. I know some people are popping off on the chat about AEW ratings. I did bring it up briefly earlier, but we will talk about it a little bit more in depth. Get your questions guaranteed answers. If you drop a super chat, I guarantee to read it. I'll answer your questions, and then we'll call it a day. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment. Alrighty, we are back. Thank you guys for sticking with me. Had to grab a water, and I did want to go to a super chat that we had from Darren Buss. Shout out to Darren, $4.99 super chat. He says, "Hi Ango, do you think with TNA and WWE trying to create another war like WCW and WWE?" No, it is very clear that WWE and TNA have a positive working relationship. Whether they run an invasion angle or not, I don't think it really makes that much sense to do it. It's not something I would necessarily be interested in either, to be honest. I don't think an invasion angle would be fun. I think kind of what we're seeing with TNA just being on the air with WWE is just cool enough as it is. Joe Hendry, Frankie Kazarian telling a story inside NXT, and then it carried over to TNA. I like that. I don't think WWE needs to do something like that at all. I don't think they should. I don't think I'd be that intrigued by it. And I don't think that's what they're leading to. Obviously, things can change, but you never know. You never know. That's the beauty of a working relationship. You don't know what's going to happen. And I think that part of it makes it very cool. But it's not something I'm necessarily interested in. So I'll kind of keep it at that. Thank you, Darren Buss, for the $4.99. Darth Bane dropped $1.99. He says, "Will a TNA star get a spot on one of the big four PLE?" This is a wonderful question because it would be groundbreaking. Obviously, let's factor in the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble is a pay-per-view where 1,000% I do believe there will be a spot for TNA. And if I were the WWE, I think it has to be Joe Hendry. When you look at the numbers, when you see how fucking huge it was, you have to assume that Joe Hendry would be in the Royal Rumble. Imagine that pop that he had at NXT and multiply it by 1 million. I think the main roster audience would go crazy. Now, to answer your question, Darth Bane, I do think, I do believe that we won't see a TNA star at WrestleMania. I don't think we'll see a Pro Wrestling Noah star at WrestleMania. I don't think we'll see Marigold featured at WrestleMania. I think right now they want to save a lot of it for NXT and its pay-per-views. But I do think it could carry over into the Royal Rumble. So yes, I do think we get TNA at the Royal Rumble. I don't think we get anything other than that. Also, a lot of these big four pay-per-views are happening internationally. A lot of WWE pay-per-views are happening internationally. So I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But it would be freaking huge. I seen some people in the chat bring up X Division, doing the Ultimate X match or something like that. And I think it would be really cool to bring one of those ideas to WWE, but I don't see it going further than an NXT pay-per-view. I think it's far more likely we would see something like that at an NXT pay-per-view. Thank you, Darth Bane, for the $1.99. I did see some people bring up in the chat about the ratings. I just want to point this out. I said it earlier, I don't care about ratings. I'll always say that I don't care about ratings. That will never change. Anytime I ask somebody about ratings and how it's calculated, nobody gives me a straight answer. Nobody truly knows. Ratings, calculations, they're all outdated, all that bullshit. But yes, according to Programming Insider, AEW Dynamite drew 502,000 viewers for Dynamite. And if that was accurate, that's pretty fucking shitty. I enjoyed Wednesday's episode. So just keep that in mind. I thought Wednesday's episode was cool. I didn't watch it live. I watched it at 2 o'clock in the morning. But if you want to talk about ratings for those who fucking love ratings and they just, oh my God, we got to talk about ratings. Those numbers fucking suck. But who gives a shit about the ratings, bro? The ratings could be 10 million, 2 million, 5 million, 6 people. It doesn't matter. If other people aren't watching it, it is what it is. Clearly, there is a lack of interest in AEW. That's obvious. If you guys watch AEW, people aren't as interested as they are in that versus WWE. Why that may be the case, I talked about it earlier in today's video. I think WWE has long-term stories being told. They're dropping little nuggets and little nuances that make you think, hey, I gotta watch next week. Wrestling is subjective. People know this. People understand that. But at the same time, too, you just need to realize at the end of the day, what AEW is doing is clearly not getting people interested long term. They brought in Mercedes, they brought in Will Ospreay, they brought in Okada, they bring in all these big names, Adam Copeland, all of these game changers, and then it turns out they're not actually game changers. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're relying on a name to change the overall business, you're relying on the wrong thing. This is something I believe 1000%. For some reason, I get fucking flamed on Twitter for this, but I say it all the time. Stop worrying about the names that you're signing and the people that you're bringing in. Worry about the programs. Worry about creating enough interest long term. And actually, I thought Wednesday, Swerve and Ospreay had me so fucking intrigued. I was like, wow, Ospreay continues to be a great promo guy. Everybody hates Will Ospreay because he can't cut promos, and then he cuts another great fucking promo. And I'm sitting here being like, damn, this is a great match. Now, if WWE had this and they dragged it out to SummerSlam, I think people would be more interested. But AEW rushes their programming. They don't let anything fucking marinate. I said this with JD on his channel. I said this with JD, and I said flat out, I said, yo, WWE lets their storylines marinate. When you're cooking chicken, you got to be fucking careful how you do it because, well, you don't want to get salmonella. Right? And it sounds fucking absolutely ridiculous, but the truth is, apply it to wrestling. When you let things cook, people get excited. People have interest. So yeah, do I think AEW having 502,000 viewers is shitty? Yeah. But do I think the ratings are accurate? No. Even when they're 2 million, I don't think they're accurate. So that's my thought on the ratings. Miles Gilbert Roberson dropped a $2 super chat. What is your dream TNA WWE story you would love to see now? This is a fantastic question because right now I absolutely love this working relationship. You guys know that I'm a huge TNA fan, which for some reason is also controversial in today's day and age. But TNA, tons of great people work there, tons of great staff, tons of great people, hospitality, everything there. I mean, I could say a million great things about TNA from my own experience. What I will say with TNA and WWE in a working relationship and a dream storyline, honestly, I would love to see the system cross over onto the main roster, whether it's with the Judgment Day or the Bloodline or the OC. I would love to see a faction war between TNA and WWE. I don't want to see an invasion angle. I don't want to see company versus company invasion angle, but seeing two factions go after each other would be phenomenal. I also think it would be really cool. I don't know who mentioned in the chat, but somebody mentioned the idea of doing an Ultimate X match in WWE. I would love to see the X Division Championship at an NXT event. You know, Mustafa Ali was awesome in WWE. He went to TNA. He's also awesome in TNA. So I would love to see him mix it up there as well with his title on the line. Thank you, Miles, for the $2 super chat. We got a $4.99 from Phil Batway. He says, do we get Ricky Starks show up in the Rumble? It's a phenomenal question, and I definitely want to talk about Ricky Starks and other AEW talent jumping over to WWE, because I do think there will be more talent that do this. But yeah, I mean, I don't know when his contract ends with AEW, so it's really hard to speculate on that. What I will say, though, is that I think Ricky Starks in WWE is inevitable. My brain cannot process or fathom the idea of how AEW doesn't utilize him. And then for Tony Khan to have the fucking balls to say something along the lines of, we would love to have him back soon. Well, what's the reason that he's out? Why is there so much secrecy? You're wasting fucking television time on the learning tree. What is that doing for anybody? I don't know. The overwhelming response from fans is that nobody seems to really enjoy that storyline anyways. Chris Jericho is awesome. I love Chris Jericho. But I don't like this gimmick. I don't think it's a fun gimmick. I don't think it's an entertaining gimmick. But I love Chris Jericho. I miss the Inner Circle days, bro. I miss the Inner Circle days. And now look, Jake Hager's gone. Mike Santana's gone. Ortiz, I don't know what the fuck he's doing these days. And then we have the learning tree taking up TV time. Ricky Starks is not on TV. Daniel Garcia is on TV, but he's not in a major storyline. So do we think Ricky Starks shows up in the Rumble? I mean, if his contract ends before that, fuck yeah. Hell yeah, I think he goes to WWE. But I don't know when his contract ends. And I do think when his contract ends, he finds himself in WWE. 1,000%, without a doubt. Phil, thank you for the super chat. Auntie Gwen says, do you think Liv Morgan retains the title until WrestleMania? I think she retains the title until Rhea Ripley comes back. So I don't know when Rhea Ripley comes back, but I do think, I think her and Rhea Ripley have arguably one of the best women's storylines right now. And Rhea is obviously not on TV, but Liv Morgan, she being a little freaky. She be posting like thirst traps and shit on Twitter and Instagram and tagging Dom Mysterio. It's very reminiscent of the Attitude Era days. It's going to be very interesting to see how they build that, especially with WWE Raw on Netflix. And then I think you got to factor in, honestly, one of the big things that you got to factor in is that Rhea Ripley, not on TV, the Judgment Day is falling apart. There's something there, obviously, with Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Carlito's chilling with the Judgment Day now. The Judgment Day looks a lot different, a lot more problematic without Rhea. She's the glue that keeps them together. When Rhea Ripley comes back into the company, I think her and Damian Priest will be baby faces. I think the Judgment Day will be completely different. And what I absolutely love about the storyline too is that Liv Morgan in the past, I don't feel like she was ever given the ball to run with. And her and Dominic Mysterio are drawing a lot of attention. A lot of people seem to be enjoying the storyline. So I can't imagine how they don't have Liv hold it until WrestleMania. And then the real question is, does Rhea Ripley beat her? Probably. But if she holds it until WrestleMania, that's a good title reign. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. 26 WWE says, when will WWE Women's Mid-Card title get announced for the main roster? It's a good question. We don't have any information on it. So I have no idea. But I do think to a certain extent, we'll get to a point where we'll get to a certain extent within the I'm having a fucking brain fart because I was just fixing my audio. Sorry. We're getting to a certain point where I think the women's division needs a mid-card title. And I think it would be far greater for WWE to introduce a mid-card title for the women versus the tag titles. I don't think the women's tag titles are that needed, but you never know. Obviously, we'll see what they do. So obviously it's something to obviously pay attention to, but we don't have any information on that. Kevin Schiffman says, think AJ Styles moves to Raw and leads the Judgment Day. No, but I do want to see the OC become a big part of the show. I do think we need that. I think the OC is too fucking good to be just another group of people on TV. Like, they got to have some substance. They got to be up there. They got to be doing some shit. AJ shouldn't be leading the Judgment Day. AJ shouldn't be leading another faction other than the OC. And with Tama Tonga and Hikuleo and Tonga Loa and Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson and Finn Balor all in the same company, you can make one gigantic Bullet Club. But right now, the Bloodline storyline takes precedence over all of that. But I do predict that after they will be there all together. So who knows how that goes. The last question we'll read before we call it a day. Ranma1013 did mention Ilya Dragunov replaces Chad Gable in the Money in the Bank qualifier, which is true. Shout out to the Y6. That stuff is incredible. They took out Chad Gable. Chad Gable is at a stage where he can't be on Raw next week because of it. Beautiful. I don't know who's going to win Money in the Bank this year, but I have a feeling whoever cashes in will fail. Unless it's Finn Balor cashing in on Damian Priest. But I don't know. We were predicting the WrestleMania 41 card earlier, and I do think Gunther is World Heavyweight Champion by then. So how they get there, I don't know. But that's the beauty of making these predictions early, because I think at some point there's going to be a lot of curveballs. But I do like the idea of Finn Balor pretending to cash in on Cody and then cashing in on Damian Priest and successfully doing it. But I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the episode 2 of Ango Uncensored. I appreciate all of you coming through. Thank you again. If you haven't clicked like on this stream, it would mean the absolute world to me. And with that being said, I'll see you guys later.
Wanna dance like that.